start off with a question, and you can shout out your answer if you have one, which I'm pretty sure you do. So, what comes to mind when you hear the word France?
Paris. Annabelle.
Yes, maybe some basic French words like bonjour or merci, or the stereotypical food that we hear of like croissants, baguettes, macarons, or maybe the famous tourist attractions that we see photos of all the time. And that was pretty much all I knew, too. When I boarded the plane with 7 other Taiwanese girls, we were on our way to France for 10 months of exchange life. And I was already more familiar with French culture than the others, because I had already visited the country with my parents. Here's the 13-year-old me, trying to look chic like a Parisian in high-heeled boots, but ending up with painful feet after the first day. And it was this exact trip back in 2013 that prompted me to start learning French. I took lessons just for fun, with no real purpose or any intention of becoming a fluent French speaker, until the idea of going on exchange popped up. I don't think I ever felt afraid when considering going abroad for an entire year, all alone, living with a host family that possibly couldn't communicate with me in my native tongue. In fact, it excited me. My parents raised me to be an adventurous person, and that's why I did not hesitate at all. My mom said to me, "Did you ever think about taking a year off and becoming an exchange student?" I mean, a whole year without my mom nagging at me every day? Of course! I'm just kidding. That was not the point of my exchange. I decided to go abroad because, well, I was starting to lose focus on my academic pathway. I moved to Taiwan in 7th grade, so I had to start all over from Taiwanese phonetic symbols. Keeping grades up may have been a simple thing for typical Taiwanese students to do, but I couldn't even read traditional Chinese characters, let alone finish the exams. So over the years, I had to spend more time than anyone else trying to catch up and eventually climb up the academic ladder. I did succeed, but in doing so, I also had to give up all my free time in doing the things that I really enjoyed, like dancing. So when freshman year came and numerous performance-related activities approached, I did a 180-degree flip on time usage and directed all my attention towards these events that I hadn't been able to do for years. And I saw them as rare chances and snatched them, and completely neglecting my studies. So my grades dropped, and conflicts started appearing at home. "You wouldn't get into a good college with grades like this," my parents would say. And I started to think that maybe I wasn't smart enough. Maybe my parents had wrong expectations for me. Years of constant stress was wearing me out, and I needed to take a breath. My family moved around often when I was little, so I knew that I was pretty good at adapting to new environments. But I forgot one thing, that on exchange, my parents wouldn't be there to help me through my difficult times. And there were actually many things that were contrary to what I had expected. For example, I thought that French high schools would have many fun events like sports games or prom, but students really just went to school to have class. I also expected my host family to be in a big, bustling city, or at least a place I've heard of when I was in French class. Most people automatically assume that I lived in Paris for my exchange, but no, I wasn't in Paris, or in any of these big cities. I was here. I can't see your faces clearly, but I'm just going to assume that you're frowning right now wondering, where on earth is that? Sarreguemines, a small town near the French-German border. And that's actually where my school is situated. My host family came from another town about 30 minutes away, Petite Rosselle. The first week in France may have made me a bit too comfortable. Our French exchange agency gathered all the exchange students in Paris for a 7-day language camp, where I was able to meet teenagers from all over the world. And I made lots of friends at the camp, so I thought to myself that if I could get along so well with everyone at the camp, it would be absolutely no problem for me when I go to my French high school, right? I knew how outgoing I was, and I didn't think that there were any obstacles standing between me and a successful exchange life. But I felt happy way too soon. The first week at school was usually unusual. It was usual because I switched schools often when I was little, so I knew what it was like to step into a new school where nobody knew who I was. It was also unusual because I was the only East Asian in the entire high school department, and there were people who would crowd around me and stare at me intensely, whispering to each other as if I were a rare specimen in the zoo. But that was only the first week. When the second week came, things started to go in the opposite direction from what I had expected. I had trouble remembering the names of all the people that came forward to say hi, and I didn't want to create awkward situations where I couldn't even call that person by his or her name. I didn't talk much because I knew I would get embarrassed over my horrible grammar and vocabulary. And the most serious issue is that I didn't possess a high enough level of French to really understand their conversations or jokes. I usually sat with the same group of people, and when they laughed, I laughed along. Not because I found anything funny, but because I wanted to look like I fit in. Soon, I began to doubt myself. My warrior spirit was nowhere to be seen. I questioned myself. Was it a great decision or a massive mistake to study abroad? What made me think that I could venture into this foreign world all alone and survive? When you blend in too much, you want to stand out. But when you really step out of your comfort zone, you want to blend in again. And this time, I couldn't find a way. In a place where I catch attention just for my physical features, I hardly felt normal at all, and I desperately wanted to. And the fact that I was a person who constantly hid my feelings did not help my situation at all. And for this, I greatly thank my host family. It probably seemed bizarre to them that I kept on smiling and saying that everything was fine. But one of my host's sisters, Pauline, who used to be an exchange student herself, knew that things couldn't be that easy for a foreigner. She knew what I was going through, and she told me that everything would get better soon. There were some things that Pauline said that truly changed my view on being an exchange student. I initially thought that I could be a bit passive and just wait for others to pull me into their circle, because that's what I used to do to transfer students in my class so that they feel welcomed. But Pauline said to me that exchange students shouldn't stick with the same group and isolate themselves from others. As hard as it may seem, it is always up to the exchange student to take the first step and get to know people. And exchange students, they only stay for a short amount of time. So some people would even avoid talking to exchange students so that saying goodbye wouldn't be as difficult when the exchange student has to leave. And I still remember the day everything changed for me. I was sitting alone in the corner, thinking about what Pauline had said to me. 10 meters away sat two people from my class, whose laughter could be heard around the entire common area. I contemplated going over and talking to them, but a part of me was also afraid that they would just dismiss me and make me look like a complete fool. I was being my usual procrastinating self, so I said to myself that it was now or never. I put on my most confident face and went over to them, and they were very welcoming. To my surprise, they even tried talking to me in English so that they could practice, and I would do my best to reply in French. And soon we were laughing all together. Once I got to know these two, they introduced me to their friends, and I found myself adding more and more Snapchat contacts. There were some girls who admitted that they kind of hoped I was Korean so that they could talk to me about their favorite K-pop groups. But being a K-pop fan for myself, we immediately started chatting. With another girl, I shared the same birthday, so we declared each other sisters right on the spot. I also got to know Julie, with whom I shared the same music taste, and who would become my closest friend in France. I'm actually very talkative, and sometimes even passionate when the topic is right. But because of the language barrier, I didn't have much things to say, and I worried that this would lead other people to misunderstand that I was a shy person. 10 months may seem long, but it isn't. I didn't have the time to wait for others to get to know the real me. I had to show them the real me. So even if it meant that I had to constantly ask my friends to speak slowly or repeat what they had said, I put everything out there to speak completely in French. Some of my friends would even refuse to translate a word into English for me and only explain in French until I figured it out on my own. I became a normal student so quickly that, now that I look back, my exchange year really passed by in a blur. My adapting period was, in fact, only 2 weeks, which is much shorter than usual, so I had more time to really immerse myself into French culture. Saint-Domingue is a small town where many people know each other, and word spread out fast that a Taiwanese girl was enrolled at the private Catholic high school. I even caught the attention of the local television channel and was asked to give an interview. And I found myself saying hi to students that went to other schools after only talking to them once while we were hanging out with the same group of mutual friends after school. I found myself stepping into a new comfort zone. And the liberty granted to me was shocking. We were allowed to leave campus and eat lunch wherever we wanted, something I would never experience while being a student here at Fuhsing or in any school in Taiwan, basically. And my friends took this chance to introduce me to the local culture. France is a huge mixed pot of different nationalities. And in a small town like Saint-Domingue, there were Arabian restaurants, taco shops, Italian cafes. I'll be honest that I'm sort of a picky eater, and if I were traveling with my parents and they proposed to eat Arabian food, I would have straight up said no. But being on exchange with only local friends, I had to put aside my pickiness and just give it a try. The challenge of being on exchange isn't just breaking down language barriers and making friends. What I learned the most from my exchange year was the important skill of understanding how people think, of putting myself in their shoes and wondering how they would act, how they would respond. And that starts with greeting people in French style. It was something I had trouble getting used to because it was a kiss. Wait, did that sound wrong? Let me explain. So French people call it la bise, which means the kiss, but it's not on the lips. It's just two people standing face to face with each other, touching their cheeks and making a kissing sound at the same time. They do this instead of waving to each other. So every morning when I got to school, I would go over to each one of my friends, give them a kiss, and at the same time say, "Salut, ça va?" which means, "Hey, how's it going?" Sometimes I had to react on the spot if this person started the kiss from the left side or the right side, because if that went wrong, then oops. There were many times my friends would look at me with a proud mama face and say, "Annabelle, you're really a French girl now." And at first I would wonder if that was really a compliment. Did I only copy French people on the outside, or did I also learn from their inner selves and merge it with my own? But from the effortless daily conversations to being a listener when my friends had something to complain about, or simply just being a shoulder to cry on, I knew that I had truly found a place in their hearts. I knew that they had truly accepted me as one of them. And it's really a heartwarming thing to know that my 10-month presence left a long-lasting impression on those who knew me in France. Even after returning to Taiwan for half a year already, some of my friends still send me messages saying how school was different without me. And that really touched me. Just like what the famous author Maya Angelou once said, "I learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." People also often make the wrong assumptions about exchange students. They think that we go abroad to spend a year in leisure. People back in Taiwan would send me messages saying, "Are you having fun in France?" But I always made sure to emphasize that I wasn't there to have fun. "Well, I see your Instagram posts of you visiting another city or chilling with your friends all the time," they'd say. But then again, we only post about things that we're happy about. We tend to hide the difficulties that we face so that friends and family back home wouldn't worry about us. When my host parents were enrolling me into my French high school, I asked to be evaluated like a normal French student. Most exchange students are evaluated so that they don't have the pressure of turning in assignments or preparing for exams. But I knew that if I went with that, then I wouldn't improve as much. And through the process, I saw my competitive self emerging again. When my grades came up after a semester, I regained my confidence. If I could do it in France, how could I not do it in Taiwan? A year in France also proved to me that all students at this age were working hard on their studies. My friends never slacked off, and I shouldn't either. This experience also influenced my determined attitude to live a more balanced lifestyle after returning to Taiwan, to accurately tether my studies and my hobbies. And it is also with the intention of proving to everyone that I wasn't abroad to spend a year of vacation that I created a blog where I could share my stories. Life in France was great, but sometimes I had to pull myself away from the busy gossips or group chats and just give myself some time to do some reflection. When strong emotions overcame me, I expressed them in words and hoped that those who read my blog could understand what I was experiencing and maybe understand exchange students a bit more in general. And through the self-reflections, I thanked my parents, my host family, my friends, and myself for making my exchange year possible. When we push ourselves to our limits, we gradually lose ourselves despite the goals that we succeed in achieving. And that's why we should take a step back, give ourselves some space, and regain life balance. My solution was to step out of my comfort zone, to bring some changes to my life, and refresh myself through the challenges that I had to face on my own. Not only did I find myself again, I also became a better version of myself. I found myself with a more open heart than ever before. Stepping out of the comfort zone doesn't necessarily have to be going on exchange. It's more of a skill that allows us to gain valuable experiences, to try our best, to find alternatives. And with this skill, we can do it almost every day, everywhere. And I think that this is an idea worth spreading. To embrace the unknown. To embrace letting go of the present. To embrace the change. Thank you.